your word. Okay, let me turning it over to Bill.
Okay, I heard the recording
Yes.
button come on. So welcome everyone, good to see you. I'm Bill Thomason. I have a NLP practice in Phoenix. Our office is near Paradise Valley Mall. I think what I'll do is kind of give just a basic introduction, some of my background, and so you begin to get to know me, and kind of shoot for maybe 7:30 and turn over kind of if there are questions you have. I'm open to other topics. We did a live meeting before, but it happened to be a night that I went to Granite Reef Center there, and the electricity had gone off. So we wound up everybody driving to Denny's and had a meeting there. So I don't know how many people were there. I know Odette was. I think Skip may have been. No, Thomas, you were there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Thomas was there then, and Debbie for sure. So again, welcome to everybody. I guess we all, like Odette said, we're all basically coaches. When I started in NLP and I had gone actually to in the 80s, kind of mid 80s, will age me here, and I'd gotten. We were going to lots of seminars in those days. A girlfriend asked me to go to a seminar and said yes, and a day or two later, I thought I better find out what it was about. So I asked her, and she just goes, "We're gonna walk on fire." My first reaction was, why? Turned out to be Tony Robbins, as you might have guessed. And about 35 minutes into this workshop that was really 4 days, starting on a Friday night. Of course, the first night is when we walked on fire. But 35 minutes in, I realized this is exactly what I'd been looking for. I had been working with a PhD psychologist in Dallas, Texas. Dr. Harvey Davison was kind of well known in that area. And eventually I did therapy groups with him, and I did hypnosis sessions. So a lot of what I understood about hypnosis, I learned from him. And worked with him for a number of years before I just kind of went out on my own with a partner and built a business in Dallas before moving to Sedona. I no longer live in Sedona, but you see my background here. This is probably my favorite spot on the planet, right there on Oak Creek with Cathedral Rock in the background. I assume everybody in this group would have been to Sedona. I lived there for a number of years, and one thing people would have the question, well, do you ever get bored with it? Well, the answer would be no. I'd wake up every morning and just be stunned by the beauty of the red rocks, and just getting to live in a place like that was just absolutely amazing. So I was still doing NLP, but the corporate training, I got it when I could get it. So I did the Jeep tours while I was there. So I had a little day job. Then I could easily take off and go for a week or so at a time and do corporate training too. So my background is a lot of corporate training. Before working with Dr. Davison, I'd actually been in the health food industry. So I started out selling ginseng tea, if you're familiar with that, and built up into other products, developed a little distributorship, and traveled all over the Southwest, and kind of cowboy days. I had a pickup truck with a camper shell on it. So I didn't stay in hotels much. I would just drive off into the wilderness wherever I could, because you can do that around most of the Southwest. And living in Sedona, living in Arizona is amazing, because pretty much the rest of the vacations I take, I could do right here between Utah and Arizona and never be bored in any way, shape, or form, because there's so much to see here. But the idea of selling health foods, the mind-body connection, kind of led to, there was a point at which even though I owned a health food store, there's a point at which I realized that to save the planet, to have people become whole, healed, well, and complete, that just working on the physical body alone wasn't enough, that we had to really get down to the emotional cause of things. So the spiritual, emotional, physical bodies, I deem as important to the work that I do. So we can, after I went to the seminar with Tony Robbins, I realized this is exactly what I've been looking for, but I just got together with everybody else I could get with and learned about NLP and hypnosis, got certified in hypnosis as well as NLP. So that begins a lot of what we're up to. For the idea of client rapport, in those early days of NLP, we didn't have, coaching had not become a big thing yet. So I had a guy that was one of my students in Dallas who he got the idea of coaching as an NLP practitioner, and he went and got literature made up and all of that, but nobody else had that idea yet. So if I say Thomas Leonard, does anybody know who that is? He wrote books and actually started an NLP NLP coaching university, and actually made coaching a big deal. So it became not something you just did for sports, but it's something that we do with people in general. So like NLP, it got out into the sports world, but then into the business world, and just about everywhere you can think of, NLP and coaching have become a big deal. And it's spread into all these different areas. One thing about NLP is it actually started with co-founders, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And I don't know exactly where everybody is. We probably won't do too much introduction to what NLP is. We want to go into the deeper levels of the coaching. So when we get into, if you did a NLP practitioner training with me, part of that would be coach training. And there's some specific stuff. Some of it's a little bit like, instead of just exercises that demonstrate hypnosis and you run scripts and all of that, some of what we do is a little bit like the same kind of exercises you might do if you've taken yoga or meditation courses. So tonight I've got a few things. We would teach these patterns, these ways of being. One idea is, well, how do you create a state inside of which you can be with another person in such a way that coaching actually works best? There's another guy named Tim Galway. Anybody familiar with that name? He wrote the book, The Inner Art of Tennis. There was an inner art of golf, an inner art of 2 or 3 other subjects, but basically he got the idea, well, coaching is about just being with people in a way that you get to the inner, they have the resources inside them to achieve any outcome. And what our job is as coaches, as hypnotherapists and NLP practitioners, is to help people find the resources that are already there and bring them forward, help the person bring them forward in a way that works for them. So we're actually working inside the models and belief systems of the people that are our clients. So wanted to start with that, and building a state. The idea of getting from just being a coach, where we do that. My uncle was a fairly famous college football coach. He's passed on now, but University of Texas, Darrell Royal, if you're a fan of college football. I went to University of Texas and actually played football there my first year in college. And one of the things I noticed about what my uncle did, he took coaching to another level. He would be up on top of he would climb up this little ladder with a viewpoint at the top, and he could see the players running their plays and all of that. Ever so often, he would climb down off of this stand, and he'd get with one of the players who had just run a practice play of some kind. He'd walk up and down the sidelines with the player, and he would basically just ask questions, which was kind of an interesting thing, which is what Timothy Galway was basically teaching. If you ask good questions, good coaches ask good questions, good therapists ask good questions. So he would help that player find what was missing in the way that he had run a play. And my uncle, rather than the kind of stereotypical coach where they yell and scream at people, he didn't quite do it that way. So I think he was my inspiration for understanding this whole idea of, well, how do you get to the point where you can actually create change with somebody? And rapport is going to be, you studied a little bit about NLP, so you know if you're doing any kind of work with somebody else, rapport is incredibly important. So an awakener, though, is something else. How do we get people to get awake to the possibilities that exist within them? So I've got the little sheet. If you've got the study guide, it says behavior modeling. NLP is really based on behavior modeling. Richard Bandler and John Grinder got this idea that if they found people who had excellent behavior, expertise in some area or another. Now you have expertise in whatever job you may have, in addition to being a hypnotherapist. You're an expert at whatever you do. We all are experts at something. So if you can find the high enough quality information about how somebody does what they do really well, you can take on those patterns inside yourself and integrate that skill or ability, that expertise. So that's what NLP is based on. And they began to get a protocol together for asking good questions in such a way that they could get the high quality information about how experts do what they do well. So NLP is on that. So it says hypnosis is one of the cornerstones of NLP. NLP pioneers developed a step-by-step protocol for modeling and installing patterns of excellence. NLP tools and techniques are particularly useful in supporting the coaching process, including goal or outcome setting. So a lot of the work I do, if somebody comes in for coaching, they pretty much know what they don't want anymore, but we want to immediately go to work to get them to shift from what the problem state is into what the more solution or desired state would be. And you can do that in the first moments, and pretty much 80% of your work is done already as soon as people start thinking about, well, what is the result I'd rather be having in my life? Now, the big thing is we are pattern making devices. So we're habitual. We do the same things over and over again, regardless of whether we're getting the outcome or not. So actually creating change with people is a big, an important thing to be talking about. In the corporate work I was doing with Fortune 500 companies, now you have a whole Fortune 500 company who's pretty much ingrained in whatever they were doing before. I talk about having a 2x4 to knock them over the head a little bit, figuratively, to get them to pay attention, because they're going to have to change what they were doing before to get to the new behavior. So there's a big clue there. If you can interrupt an old pattern, you pretty much have to do that to install new possibilities for people. So goal setting is the first thing. So now we want to directionalize what it is they want. We want to talk a little bit about well-formed outcomes. If I say that, I know the NLP people have got that. Does everybody know what well-formed outcome questions are? So if you need, well, what are the right questions to be asking? These 10 questions we'll go over tonight and get an idea how that adds to where it is you want to go with it. State management, of course, perceptual positions, and specific life change patterns for creating profound change is what this meeting is about for what I have to present. So NLP models how to perform effectively by modeling the expertise of those who do what they do well. It's kind of what we were saying. So we want to back up a little bit and get the idea of establishing a coaching state. So the first thing is, how do I be when I'm working with another person to get where I want to go? So if you create a zone of excellence, how valuable might that be? And then the next step we're going to take in it is then to, once you have the state you want to be in, then you want to be able to invite people into that state and create a safe space inside which we can actually work with people. Sound like a good use of our time? Okay,
Yes.
excellent, excellent. I tend to operate fairly in a way that is interactive. So I've been talking a lot to begin with. We'll kind of begin to phase out of that and get you involved in more ways as we go along. So here's the first one. You can do this just sitting where you're sitting. And it says sit or stand comfortably, feet on the floor. If you can reach the floor, that's good. If not, imagine you're touching the floor. You want to get grounded, basically. As you just allow your spine to be erect as much as possible. As you become aware, your breathing should be regular and deep from the belly. So if you've done a little bit of yoga or meditation, you know that you can actually spend a lot of time and energy just working on breathing. Breathing is a great thing to focus on because one of the things we learned, we pulled NLP from all kinds of data and other fields of information. If I say 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information, have you heard that term before? Some of you are nodding your heads and some of you are not. Well, 7 plus or minus 2 actually is 1955, I think it is, MIT paper, George Sperling presented this paper, the magic number 7 plus or minus 2. It refers to how much information we can pay attention to in conscious awareness. So at any particular moment in time, we can focus in on just 5 to 9 bits of information consciously. Now it gets to be an interesting question. Well, what does that do for us? Number one, just knowing that there's this kind of narrow little band of information we can consciously put our attention on, doesn't sound like very much. So when clients come in and I'm trying to explain this to them, I say, well, the good news is that 5 to 9, you only have to focus on a few things. So you've got all these problem states you're working on. You want to get to a really wonderful state, a desired state you want to be in. And there's only a few things we actually need to be focused on to get you where you need to go. The other end of that is more interesting to people in the hypnosis field. When you exceed the 7 plus or minus 2 threshold, what do you think must happen in the minds or brains of the people you're working with? Pause just a moment as you think about that, and some of you may answer, but basically people just get confused, they get overwhelmed. Now, overwhelmed is a really great state to be in because it's what happens right before you learn. So 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information is important in all kinds of ways. And in the practitioner training in NLP, I go through lots of different ways we actually use that particular bit of information. But you're aware of your breathing, regular and deep from the belly. And notice that as I talked a little bit, you may have forgotten to breathe. So deep and from the belly, letting the oxygen get in. Bring your attention to your feet, heels, toes, arches. And allow you, as you continue to breathe, allow yourself to be aware of the balls of your feet. Around there, back up around your heels, again, up through your legs and knees. Thighs, pelvis and hips, all the way up through your belly. In yoga and meditation, they talk about the center of your gravity in your body, kind of the center of your weight should be about an inch below your belly button. And if you allow your attention to go there, you can be aware of being in balance, continuing to breathe, continuing to have your attention moving from place to place in your body, aware of your body in a new way, breathing deeply. Say the words out loud. I am here. 1, 2, 3. I am here.
I am here.
Let's do it a couple more times. 1, 2, 3. I am here.
I am here.
1, 2, 3.
I am
here.
here.
And notice that as you repeat it a couple of times, it actually becomes a little more congruent. So let's do it one more time and allow yourself to be consciously aware that you're here. 1, 2, 3. I am here in this place. So I'm here. I am present. So being in awareness, I am here. I am present. I am centered. So 1, 2, 3. I'm here. I'm aware. I'm centered. I'm sorry. I'm here. I am present. I am centered. 1, 2, 3. I am here.
I'm here.
I'm present.
Centered. I'm present.
And I'm present. And you want to continue awareness through your gut, through the belly, solar plexus, spine, chest, heart center. And I may be going too fast for some people. So as you allow yourself to become aware, solar plexus, chest, heart center, and say, I am open. I am opening. 1, 2, 3. I am open.
I'm opening.
I am opening. And one more time. I am open. I am opening.
I am open. I am opening.
Now, it would be one thing if I had you say these things just inside your head, but that you actually voice them. It actually creates a different reality. So things become more and more concrete as we actually speak the words into our world. So 4 is continue to expand awareness through your shoulders, upper arms, elbows, hands, fingertips. You might even begin to notice a little tingling there. I've actually used that in some of my hypnosis scripts. The little tingling on the fingertips creates an anchor. Hands, fingertips, throat. Throat and neck and face. Include your mouth, your tongue, your nose, your eyes, in your eyes and behind your eyes, your ears, inside your ears and into your skull, brain, center of your head, behind your eyes. Breathing into the center of your head. So bring oxygen and energy and say, I am awake.
I am awake.
I am aware.
I am aware.
I'm alert and clear.
I am alert and clear.
I'm 1, 2, 3. I'm awake. I'm aware. I am alert and clear.
I am awake. I am aware.
I'm
I
alert
am
and clear. Excellent. So stay connected, feeling the deep sense of connection from your feet, belly, heart, and head centers, and bring awareness to the space that's beyond your body and say, I am coachable.
I am coachable.
So as you get your energy outside the confines of your skin is not a barrier. You're bigger than that. And I am coachable. 1, 2, 3.
I am coachable.
So to be coachable yourself sets up the possibility of being in a biofeedback loop with other people where they can now participate with you and being in that state. So notice now that you can experience from calm and clarity. Resources, strength, intelligence, and wisdom are available to you. And as any disturbing energies, fear, anger, sadness, you can actually hold these emotions simultaneously, can't you? Now, it may be that some people in the group would have gone through this and had other thoughts that came up as we were centering ourselves. With a little practice, you get better at just immediately going into the state. One thing with NLP is you can actually take time and manipulate it. You can shorten it or lengthen it. You can do all kinds of things to play with time, and those are good skills to learn with people. And I just want to kind of open this up. You participated at whatever level you participated, and I just want to get an idea coming back from you. What do you suppose a practice of going through these steps would do for you in terms of being a hypnotist and a coach? And anybody can contribute. I'm used to getting Rob to start, so I'll start with him.
Well, for practice, as I go through it myself, one just helps me to get in the state so I can invite the client to follow just by my state. And then it helps me remember the steps and find my way.
Yeah, helps me remember the steps to find my way. And
I
what
think it
we're
also, Bill,
go ahead, Skip.
I think it also connects you energetically to your client.
Absolutely.
I know in hypnosis, I tell my clients all the time, I am also in hypnosis when I'm inducing you to hypnosis. So I can't do that in a vacuum. I have to visualize you going to the place that I'm suggesting that you go, or what you feel.
I've often asked students, what's the best way to get people in hypnosis? Go into hypnosis. That's simple. Who else? You're muted, Kate.
I know. I have a general practice that before I see clients, I just invite openness of myself, as well as getting a little bit into metaphysics there, guides or spirits or whatever to help for the highest good of all concerned.
Excellent, excellent. It's great that we kind of bring all these different fields of endeavor into the work that we do.
Kate, that was really, what you said was very relevant, because I'm looking at doing this within the corporate world. Obviously, I can't say I'm bringing guides or any helpers
Right.
in, but the idea of centering myself before a class in that way is very important. And also imagining my class of people and asking that their guides and spirit helpers and so forth are present and helping them. I mean, I can do that whether I tell them that or not.
Yeah.
Right. And I seek to be a conduit, because I'm there for that client, not for myself, but for that client, and to serve their highest good. And I deeply respect the courage that it takes to reach out.
Yeah,
And so I seek to honor that at all times.
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm going to do this
you.
tomorrow in my class, or Thursday, I think is when my class is. Yeah.
Excellent. With corporate clients, I guess with the corporate clients beginning to do this, one of the things, I'll go back to Tony Robbins. When we first worked with him, one of the things we figured out is when we were going to work with people, we could take all of that. I think it's actually a good exercise to go through the steps of it and become consciously aware of all the different steps along the way. But in terms of taking time and manipulating it, we learned that we could just snap our fingers and anchor in the state that we got to after doing that, and snap the fingers and be in that state. Snap your fingers and be in that state.
That's what a Zoom meeting.
So remember for a moment being in the state that you were getting to through being open and present and alert and clear. Take yourself to that state. I go into state, now I'm ready to be with a person, and you get to be able to do that quicker and quicker. It becomes automatic. But for now, we'll do the longer process of it, and I think that's really useful. Anybody else? Questions, thoughts?
I just want to say I loved every one of those I am statements. And
Oh,
especially
yeah.
the first ones, the I am here, I am present, I am centered, saying that a couple of times
Yeah.
really rooted me in like in the moment of like, oh yeah, I'm here to learn. I feel like for clients that's really good because a lot of times they come in, you know, a little nervous or they have these expectations that when they walk out, you know, afraid that it's not going to work for them or, you know, whatever it is, and just reminding them like, you have to be present. Stop worrying about the future. When you walk out of here, we need to be here now to do the work.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent. One of the things about the corporate clients, one of the things I did is we did culture change with Fortune 500 companies. So it started with CEOs and executive board level people. And we really had to get them to make the personal change that was necessary to get that to go down into the organization. Otherwise, they would keep doing what they always had been doing. But I worked with multiple trainer groups. So there wouldn't just be me training, it'd be 2 or even 3, occasionally even a 4 trainer group of people with a fairly small group of executives. And you have to kind of not step on each other's toes if you're going to do multiple trainer training with Fortune 500 companies, because you basically have one shot with these people. If you don't make a difference in their lives, you're probably not getting invited back again. So before we would start a new training, we would go through a little check with each other kind of process. That makes sense? We would check in with each other. Now, kind of the way guys, especially in the South, do it, or you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Let's go. Well, rather than doing that, we actually had more of a checklist, and we'd actually go through and make sure there wasn't anything going on with me personally. Like the last time we were together in a seminar, you said blah, 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 and I had this terrible reaction to it. And I may still be holding a little bit of that as we go into the new training this week. So how do you get rid of that? Well, you need to clear first. So we would actually have a formal clearing process to get us ready to do that kind of work. And whether it's
Leave it at the door.
Say it again.
Leave it at the door.
Yeah, leave it all at the door, leave it behind. Actually, better get it cleared where it doesn't come up again. Have it done with. And that's possible because we would get there early enough to do that work before we started, because it was important. And where that leads me to is regardless of whether you're doing big groups or just an individual coaching session with somebody, that you're inviting somebody in. So the second part is about the coaching container.
May I
Now-
ask a question, Bill?
Go ahead.
Do you distinguish a difference between coaching and mentoring?
I distinguish it, yes.
Okay.
I actually have a paper I wrote about it. Mentors, when I go into work with a company, I want them to become a coaching organization, which means pretty much anybody can come up to me if I'm in a coaching organization and have permission to say, I've got an idea. I noticed this was happening. I've got an idea that might actually help you. Have you got a minute to talk with me about it? So you get permission to actually work with somebody, which is consistent with the idea of being a coach. So now we have a space inside of which is the coaching container that we're going to, inside which to work. With a mentor, in the distinction I have about it, is somebody who you've chosen, who's going to basically show you the ropes and personally take attention on growing you up in an organization. So that's how we've used it in the corporate training venue. So
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's, let's see, you gotta, then we would have consultants. Consultants are different. They're experts in some area and they come into an organization to teach people their way of doing it. So that we've got those 3 primary things we distinguish for that. Any other questions or thoughts? Was that useful in any way?
I definitely appreciate the clarity. Thank you.
So the coaching container then is now you created the space to be in for yourself and you want to invite somebody into it. So what it says in the exercise is to face each other in a relaxed, aligned, and centered posture. Now, since that's a little hard to do because you're not in the same room and we don't have the function on the working where we could put you into smaller groups, I'd rather do it this way. Pick somebody in the group or just imagine somebody in front of you, and you can do it that way. And we totally have the ability to imagine things in 3D, Dolby sound and vivid color as if it was happening now. We actually run through a typical day and we have some memory that we run back through something that happened way back when, as if it was happening now. So we're able to do that easily. We can create things in the future as well as the past. So as you're imagining being relaxed, aligned, and in a centered posture, become aware of your breath again as you become present. So we've actually just practiced that. And enter your coaching state. Now, it says maintain eye contact as you say, and imagine you're actually looking into somebody's eyes and present with them, fully present. And in this, I call it a biofeedback loop because I have perspective from this position that I don't get just looking at it from my point of view. Now I'm not the other, I'm not the self, but I'm in the relationship between them in the coaching relationship. So look into their eyes and say, I am present, I am centered, I am open. That's too many things. Just I am present. 1, 2, 3, I am present. And allow yourself to be present. I am centered. And allow 1, 2, 3.
I am centered.
And allow yourself to be centered. I am open. And you could put opening if you want. I'm aware. I'm 1, 2, 3. I'm aware.
I am aware.
I'm awake, alert, and clear.
I am awake, alert, and clear.
I'm connected to myself.
I'm connected to myself.
To you. And the field of resources within and around us. So I am connected to myself.
I'm
To
connected
you.
to myself.
To you.
To you.
And to the field of resources within and around us.
And to the field of resources around us.
Yeah. I'm ready to hold the energies within myself and the space of our interaction to the best of myself. I'm ready to hold the energies within myself.
I'm ready to hold the energies within myself.
And the space of our interactions.
And the space of our interaction.
From the best of myself.
From the best of myself.
All right. So what is that doing for you?
I have a sense of solidness.
Sense of solidness. What else?
It's almost like the energy shifts down and there's like into the grounding and the centering. And there's a sense of like relaxation and peace. There's something there.
Thank you. About, I do a lot of hiking and things like that, and sense of balance is kind of comes naturally to me. I depend on it, expect it. But about 3-4 months ago, I had a little ear infection and I had a type of vertigo that was just kind of nausea from time to time. It was just, I don't think I could live very long having that on a regular ongoing basis, but that I couldn't depend and expect that I was going to have absolute balance was shocking to me. It's like you can't stand up very easily.
Bill,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think those phrases that you were talking about, especially I'm ready to hold the energies within myself in the space of our interaction from the best of myself. I think
Yeah.
you're really connecting to the energetic field because everything is energy.
Everything is
And
energy.
yeah, and so you realize you're just an energy worker when you're a hypnotherapist or an NLP practitioner, and the energy is flowing through you. It's not coming from you to the client. And
Very well said.
the client brings your attention to where it needs to be.
Yeah, very well said.
Can I ask a question before we go on, Bill?
Go ahead.
So we did the establishing the coaching state, and then we have the coaching container. So to clarify, this is from a corporate, it could be with a client or it could be within a corporate environment. So you establish the coaching state that we went through first, and you do that both for yourself and for the group or the individual you're working with, right? And
Right, and they don't have to know that you're actually doing.
you don't have to do that with them. You just do that with yourself.
With yourself, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the coaching container that we just did, that you're doing with the client or the group of people.
Now I create the space for inviting people into a safe coaching environment.
And that they know you're doing it.
Yeah, well, they don't have to know, they just need to be able to experience it.
Okay.
I don't have to say any of those words to them out loud. It gives me the state I want to be in. So the word markers are markers for the state that we allow ourselves to go to.
So this is really all about me, the practitioner or the trainer, doing these two exercises with the attention of the client. Okay, cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So when I do the coach training along with the practitioner and NLP training, we kind of repeat it enough times for people to get the idea that, well, what state do you want to be in? Because if I'm not in a clean, clear state with people, I'm going to be, some of that's going to be leaking out and affecting the client, just like it would with the next group of corporate training that I'm going to do. I don't want to bring whatever happened between the other trainer along into a new environment with somebody and contaminate it that way. And you know, psychologists go, this whole thing of transference is a big deal. So it's really geared to not bringing those personal stress states into the work you're doing with a person, so it can be clean and clear.
And always giving the power back to the client.
And giving the power back to the client, because there's why you're doing it anyway. Because it's about allowing them to find the resources within them and bring them up and forward into practice. So basically what we're looking at is the heart of being a great coach is the state we allow ourselves to be in. So the physiology, the mental state, all those things go together. The rest of it is just tools. Now, one thing you learn in NLP training and you learn from hypnosis is even if you're not perfectly aligned and you just do the right things, if I breathe the way you're breathing, if I blink at pretty much the rate you're blinking, if I do what you're doing and do that well and pace and pace and pace and pace, pretty soon I can lead. In fact, how do you know when you've got unconscious rapport with someone is, who knows the answer to that?
Well, when they're mirroring back.
They're following your actions too.
Right.
When I pace and then I lead, they follow.
Follow, right, yes, they're mirroring back, yes.
They follow. So that's the moment you know you've got rapport. How do you know when you're out of rapport?
Well, they're not following, or they're crossing their arms across their chest more often than not.
Yeah, there's a number of things that happen, and some of it's very subtle. So we actually deal with that a lot in the training is, well, what do you do if you lose rapport? Hopefully you don't lose it because it's harder to get it back again once you've lost it. But there's things that we actually teach when breathing is the #1 physiological cue you want to pay attention to. And then eye access, eye direction. So if I'm in a group of people and I say something that creates like an emotional disconnect, people basically do this. They go, if it's a strong enough emotional disconnect, or I said something that offended them directly, people do that little quick inhale. Have you ever noticed that? And they quit breathing.
Yeah.
Now, if your audience quits breathing for a moment, which happens, and they look at each other instead of you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's gonna be way harder to get rapport back. If they look at you, then what you do next is critical. So then I breathe and I hold my breath until they exhale. When they exhale, then I have the opportunity to talk in a way that brings them back into rapport again.
Right. Invite them back in. Yeah.
Yeah. So little subtle, unconscious things that you can pay attention to that make a huge difference in the work you're doing. So that brings us to what we were talking about before, well-formed outcome questions. And I think we could do these with each other. So the first question is, what do you want? How do you find out what to work on with people?
You ask them.
Yeah, better you ask them. Sometimes they come in telling you whether you've asked them or not, but basically you have asked at a less than overt level, you've asked covertly because it's the setup. You're in the relationship already because they've come to you.
Right. And I have a intake form that I do where I have them
And that'll
list
give
the
you the
3
clue.
major things that they want to work on, as well as I have a listing of very specific issues, almost repetitively.
Thank you for saying that. When I have a similar intake form, and I may bring those up if they're not doing it already, but I want them to speak it out loud. I want to get the neuro-linguistic context of how the whole communication works, so that they're, even if they've written it down, now they're speaking it again, relating it to me in some way.
Right.
So,
And we go through, when they do their intake form, and then we go through it together. And I tell them, I says, fill out what you want, and then we're going to go through this together. And so we get, more information. And I'm listening not only to what they're saying, but also to what they're not saying. Like recently, I had a client who said that she was in an existential crisis.
okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And really what it was she was experiencing intense anxiety.
Yeah. And existential is one of those clue words. If you study psychological counseling, they put a lot of emphasis on that. You've got somebody who's, you better check it out because you don't know if that person is suicidal. You take the assumption that they are.
Yes, often you do. However, this particular one, not only do you look at those clues, but you also look at what their religiosity or spiritual or religious background is. Because often it'll come from there, where they're at a crossroads in terms of the foundational beliefs in which they were raised and the experiences that they have, which may be in direct opposition to what they understand.
Yeah, that's right. And just the word existential is one of those things with NLP. We all mean different things by language. Existential may not actually be about whether I exist or not. For some people, that would have a totally different meaning. So you got to find out what they mean by it.
Generally, when I come across people who state they have an existential crisis, is that they're having a spiritual crisis and understanding the nature of their reality, where, what is life, what is universe, what is God, how do I fit?
Thank you. Excellent. So I think what we want to do is get some kind of demonstration, some examples here. Lynette, are you willing to work a little bit? Rob, would you ask? Yeah, just ask so we can all see each other. We'll get maybe 2 or 3 of these. Just ask if you were coming in for coaching with Rob. Rob's going to ask you, what do you want? And just answer however you answer.
So Lynette, what do you want in coaching?
I want to have a stronger willpower and discipline.
Okay. Now, what I want to focus on about that is the first question isn't about what's the problem. People come in saying, knowing what they don't want, but we got to shift them from there to
What
there.
you want.
We can make some inferences probably about what you did say. Rob, can you repeat what she said?
I want to have a stronger will.
Yeah. Is that pretty close?
Yes, and
Want to have a stronger will. So we can assume that the problem state is somewhere on the other side of that statement. So this is where she wants to go, stronger will, and probably for some purpose. So the first question is pretty huge already. And then there's the NLP magic bullet statement. How will you know when you have it? So just ask her, Rob.
Well, Lynette, how will you know when you have a stronger will?
because I'd be more focused and motivated in getting projects done.
Okay. Focus, motivated, get projects done. Now, typically I'll make a little note of those things if I can do that without interrupting the rapport. Make sense? So are you familiar with this question? How will you know when you have it? I haven't asked anything else. I'm just asking them about the problem state. I'm just going, how will you know when you have it? Because it takes them to the point in the future. So we're taking them out of how it's been up to this point in time, out into a future where it's already different. So again, we're getting a big part of the work done just that quick. Because you notice that the state changes when she answers that question. Does that follow?
Yes.
Is everybody able to follow this, the well-formed outcome questions on the study page? The next question is it appropriately contextualized? And I want to get where, when, how, with whom do you want it? And we want to, those are individual questions, but for now, let's just start with what do you want and how will you know when you have it? So Lynette, if you just pick somebody in the group to work with, you're going to ask them the same two questions. What do you want and how will you know when you have it?
Okay, Odette, would you be willing to work with me?
Good job getting permission.
Yes, you can. I had to get off mute.
Okay. So Odette, what is it that you want?
I want to have joy in my life.
Oh, excellent.
Well, how will you know when you have it?
Let me think a second. I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling excited about what my day holds. I have freedom to pursue things that I discover or I read about or I hear about. And yeah, I can have fun. And I don't have to wait.
You're getting help.
You have excitement, freedom, and fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. So my attention goes not only to the words that are being spoken, but right in the beginning, did you notice the way her head moved and her eye accessing went? So her head actually went up and she looked one way, then she looked the other and then back down again. It's a little hard to tell with the glasses and the shadow, but basically you could still see that. There's a moment, we call this TDS, transderivational search. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So pattern interrupts are good things. TDS is a pattern interrupt. When somebody's pattern is interrupted, they're in that mild trance state for a little bit. So when people go off to search for the information, they're in a mild TDS that is basically an opportunity to not only pay attention, but embed new programming there. So how you use those moments is critical.
Yeah.
Odette, pick somebody.
Sure. Kate, are you game?
Yes.
Okay. So Kate, let me ask you a question. What do you want?
Well, I apologize because I am not in a place of want.
Okay.
I'm pretty content.
Okay. That is terrific. So let's backtrack then. I'm guessing that you haven't always been in a state of being where you want to be, and you're not in a state of want. So how did
Yeah,
you
we'll talk about yesterday.
okay, so how did you know when you were in this state, when you had achieved this?
In terms of being in a place of centeredness, and in terms of being in a place of peace at this time,
Yep.
as opposed to yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose lack of thought.
Okay.
So from the place where you had to go to get the problem state, then when you're again in a place of not having to think or lack of thought, you'll be back in the state that you want to be in. So you define is exactly the process for how you want to be creating the future, the state you want out of it. So that's wonderful.
Yes, I guess you would call it being in a place of presence, being in a place of flow, not concerned about where it's going or where it's come from.
Right. And then when our client gets to the point where they start talking about the state they want to be in, you want to pay attention to the subtle physiological cues, because that gives you the baseline for knowing that you've gotten the outcome that you started with. You got what the person came for.
Mhm.
So just in those first two questions, you've got a huge amount of facility at getting where you want to go. Kate, you want to pick somebody to work with?
Debbie, would you be willing to chat? Take your microphone, put your microphone
Mute.
on.
Mute.
You're on mute. There you go. There you go. Debbie, would you be willing to work with me today?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool beans. So, is there anything at this time in your life that you seek, that you desire?
I would love to cook. Want to love to cook.
Is there a reason why you persist in resisting, in working with this resistance, because you've never really enjoyed cooking?
I don't know why I don't, unless my mom taught me well.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that maybe your mom taught you well on how to not to cook or how to cook.
How to not love to cook.
Okay, so your mom didn't enjoy cooking?
No.
And Kate, you knew a little bit about this history already?
A little bit.
Yeah, so you took a pretty big jump there. So how will you know when you have what cooking, the learning to cook well is going to do for you?
When I really enjoy having people over for dinner, when I'm
Okay.
excited to cook something for them that will be really enjoyable for them.
From here, you might find out that there are lots of other ways you could satisfy that without having to
Absolutely. That's exactly where I was going to go in terms of, do you remember one of the meetings we had at Lou's house, and I had ordered from Pita Jungle?
Oh, yeah.
and we'd had a wonderful meal. Nobody cooked, but everybody enjoyed the delicious foods.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So I think we got enough examples of that, and you're following it. It's probably not something that you don't already do. One thing that happens is as therapists, one kind or another, we tend to kind of make asking these simple questions to get the answers allows the person to bring forth whatever their answer is. Otherwise, sometimes we try to solve things too soon. Make assumptions about what's going on. So we can actually use, go back to the next piece. Out of the people we worked with, you've got some answers to how will you know when you have it. The appropriately contextualized is number 3. You want to ask, where do you want it? Rob, you want to start?
Do you want me to continue with Lynette
Just
or
continue
start
where
where-
you were.
Okay. And tell me again what I'm asking.
Okay, number 3, you don't have the page.
I don't have it in front of me now.
Pretty simple. Where do you want it?
Okay. Lynette, where do you want it?
I want it within my, my business. And also with organization within my home.
Okay, and then ask when do you want it?
And when do you want it?
Immediately. As soon as I can make it happen.
This would make it happen. Next question is how. Now, you may not ask all these questions because you may have already answered that, but ask it anyway.
Okay, and how do you want it?
How do I want it? I don't really understand a how. Doesn't
Okay,
make sense to me.
so she's basically already answered it, I think, so. The next
And I would
question-
say, you know, just to jump in here, I would say, okay, so these are examples of where you're at in your life. So why are you resisting? Why are you pushing? What is it that you're not exactly satisfied with? What is that bar that you have in your mind that you're seeking to reach?
Yeah, I think you get there. What this is designed to do is go through a series of steps that allows you to take, it'll be a little bit different approach than the one you may normally use to get there. So kind of go with the process a little bit here.
I am,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good
interjecting.
question. Where's the resistance? Because the person will become aware of it themselves, and the big thing is we want them to find their own reasons and resources
Understand their
for
patterns, yes.
shifting and change it. Yeah. So with whom do you want it? Is there
All
a
right.
regime, Lynette?
Well, I want it for myself.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Sometimes there's other people, and it's good to know those in terms of helping the person get where they say they want to go. Then having the answer to those questions is important. Quite often I'll ask, what will you see when you have it? What will you hear when you have it? And what will you feel when you have it? And that gives me a lot more information, because then I have a clear idea of when they're fully in it as an end state. So benefits and costs, this is important, the important piece of this, A, B, C, D. Rob, do you want to ask the questions?
Sure. What are the benefits and payoffs?
Well, no, ask it this way. What are the benefits or payoffs of keeping the old behavior? Because she doesn't have to make a change. She's survived pretty well up to now, and she's been just fine.
Okay, what are the benefits and payoffs of keeping the old behavior?
Sometimes people go, there's not any, because they already decided they want to change. But if you realize you don't have to get up off the couch, you don't have to, I don't have to do all the things that be necessary to make the change. That's actually useful in getting somebody consciously aware of where they are.
Called secondary gain.
second, and you're looking for secondary gain as well. So Lynette, I interrupted it for a little bit.
Oh, yeah, because I was trying to figure out how I would answer that, because that's interesting, because if I think that sometimes I get too many projects going at one time, or I get too into my head and they don't seem to be able to be ever complete. So, seeing, like finishing a painting, you can get to go with it forever. So I think that's, it's interesting how you would even put that.
Yeah, and then immediately took you into the answer to some of the other questions, but if you hadn't answered that already, B, Rob, would be,
I'm with
what
you
are the
now.
benefits? What are the costs of the old
Or
behavior?
the cost of keeping the old behavior.
Yeah. Well, my life would be pretty much simpler, but I wouldn't be motivated and inspired. I wouldn't be as excited about, I want be excited about working with the NLP and hypnotherapy and work.
Excellent. And then go right to the C.
And what are the costs of the new behavior?
The cost of the what?
Of the new behavior.
The cost of the new behavior is, I won't watch as many Netflix series.
Yeah. And here's the thing, people don't typically go very deeply into, they get a wish list, something they think they want, but they don't really think through, well, what are the positives and negatives of doing it and getting it? Maybe I'm okay where I am. Maybe I need to tweak the goal that I say I want. This kind of helps get really aware and conscious, which is part of building the motivation to change it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
And the last question.
And what are the benefits of the new behavior?
The benefits of the new behavior is continual growth and motivation and inspiration that can be which is what I want to be.
Excellent. Now at the ABCD, only at D do we go to letting her talk about what it is she does want as an outcome at the end. So we've gotten through the stuff that could prevent you from getting there or sabotage the process to a point where she gets to be in a state where she's, and you kind of want to anchor this state in, because that was her pace was pretty regular there. She was breathing easily, and she was in a really good state. I want to mark that out so that I recognize it again when I see it. And at the same time, I'm allowing her to get to a point where she's experiencing the end state right before I take her off of it again. So what, Rob?
All right, what resources do you already have to assist you?
I have many resources. I've got the time, I've got the space, I've got the wisdom, I've got, yeah.
And what resources do you need to get?
The will and the discipline.
Okay. Now we've defined exactly what needs to happen in the solution. She's got to figure out a way to get to the last words at the end. Rob?
And how will life be different once you have it?
Well, I'll be more motivated and inspired and excited about working.
Excellent. Now, what you can do here is you can ask some questions. The next questions are actually about looking for that secondary gain, Skip, so that you're checking out the ecology at this point. Is it a good thing for her to get that outcome? Is it going to give her what she thinks it's going to give her at the end? Now she gets to see it. I get to see it as the coach. And how will your life be different? What will happen? What won't happen? All those questions. But then take her through the make a plan, number 9.
Okay.
What's the
Well,
first thing you'll do?
what is the thing you will do now?
What's one thing you'll do now?
one thing that I'll do now is create a schedule for myself.
Excellent. And what will you lose?
What's
when you
another
do it?
thing you'll do? Create a plan, Rob.
Okay.
What's the
What's-
second thing you do?
And what's the second thing you'll do?
To create a schedule, I will follow it and put the time into things that are more important to me.
Okay. And the third and fourth thing you'll do?
I think I will have to follow through with a, like a 3-month plan or something like that versus a 1-week kind of thing, trying to work with like something to that effect, to have something complete within 3 months kind of thing, to stay under a schedule. Well, I know what really seems to help me is working with other people to find something to work with on a project. Yeah.
I'm going to kind of interrupt it here, but the next step is to act as if, and better that you have your client do something immediately today, if not before the person gets up out of the recliner in your office and walks through the door and out into the hallway. Even before that happens, if you can get them to do anything, even a little thing, like imagine that there's a line in the carpet, like a line in the sand. And in a moment you're going to get up, you're going to step over that line. That means you're in the process of achieving the thing you said you came here for. So you want them to start doing something immediately that is easy enough to do, that is a symbol of following through on the plan. Now, number one, they've created a plan. They started from the problem state that didn't have a solution to it and worked themselves through anything that could sabotage them getting what it is they said they wanted, to the point where we've also checked for motivation. We've checked to make sure the secondary gains are out of the way and there's a way of dealing with it. Sometimes in the what will happen, won't happen, people realize, well, I need to have a conversation with my aunt, Sophie, and it's a hard conversation. Well, once I have that, all the big problems are going to be out of the way and I'm clear to go. So you want to get those things covered where a person can account for and make sure they know what's going to be necessary, and they've already started the program. They've already started the path to being in the new reality. So what I suggest is that if you just use this well-formed outcome questions process, you don't have to be perfect at it right away. Just make sure you get all the questions in. You're going to find out that if you do it enough times, pretty soon you'll know where you are in the process. You won't have to do it so consciously, but it's going to transform the way that you get to what the real issues are and know exactly what needs to happen to accomplish the outcome. Occasionally, somebody's just done at this point. They finished this process, they're in the new reality, and there's nothing in the way. But when you do this, you know exactly where the point is that you need intervention to shift something or change something to put the program in place. It's actually going to stay, so they'll be able to keep it over time. Does that follow?
Yes.
Yeah. Thoughts or questions about well-formed outcomes?
Well, I noticed, Lynette, you lean forward and you're still even leaning more forward and your back is super straight. And I'm wondering if energy shift for you in a way you noticed.
Oh, I was thinking about stepping into your circle of excellence, another NLP. So when he said cross the line, so I was imagining that, stepping into the circle of excellence. Yeah.
So that's like crossing the line for you.
Well, it would be a similar thing.
Yes, stepping over the line in the sand.
Yeah.
Into her circle of excellence. She's used a previous anchor and she's in the state she needs to be in to be successful now. Excellent. I want to shift gears a little bit because of the amount of time we have. But before we do, is there any other thoughts or questions about well-formed outcomes? I realize this is a little more procedural than what we were doing before. because we got the state you want to be in, we've created the coaching container, we've invited people in, and now we've gone into a set of questions that on the face of it, it occurs as if it's going to be kind of very rote and procedural, but it's going to give you really rich information so that you know exactly what the map of the territory of the other person is in a way that you wouldn't likely get to just in a normal conversation with somebody. Does that make sense? It's kind of like,
Tony, your thoughts?
I think it takes for a long time for me to really know somebody to create a friend, but haven't you ever had one of those situations where it happened in just a moment or two? Yeah, boom, it happened. And that you can do if experience has structure and we can find out what that structure is, this is the structure of an excellent NLP coach. Do this enough times and you'll get really good at it, and it'll flow naturally and easily and make a difference in the way you get the outcomes you're looking for. So we want to shift this at some point in the way. It may be that coming out of the well-formed outcome questions, what happened is you recognize that because you may use some other process now to get them the rest of the way there and make sure the pattern is full and complete. Does that make sense? So I want to have them create the foundation inside of which whatever they said they wanted to begin in the beginning is just absolutely going to happen. It's going to be inevitable. So if what was wanted is to, an example would be, I had a guy who was a massage therapist, and he was in one of those clinics, like there were several massage therapists in there, and he got business based on how many other people referred other people to him and came back for repeat visits. Well, there was a guy in there that was he was better than everybody. He was just excellent at being able to be successful as a massage therapist, and everybody loved him and wanted to come back and be with him. So what we did is this process with him, and when he came back after a week and a half for another session, his whole dynamic had changed. I'm not sure whose mute that is, but anyway, it made a huge difference in his ability to be successful in his business. So would that be useful to you to be able to build unlimited ability with your clients?
Sure.
Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is have you think of something that would be an outcome that you felt you weren't getting very well, something that is an ability that you feel like you haven't had as well as you'd like to. Does that make sense? Odette, you got one?
Yeah, let me unmute a second. Oh my God, I've got tons of them. Let's see, which do I pick?
Yeah, you have to pick one.
Okay. My investment portfolio. I'm not as good at that as I want to be.
Okay. Now, the thing about NLP is it's based on modeling excellent behavior. So who's somebody that you know or would think about that probably would do that better than you have, is really good at it?
I'm actually one of my cousins, and there's other, people that have businesses doing it, but one of my cousins, yeah.
And you want to pick one. Now, we could pick more than one, but it'll be extra. Pick somebody who would be really good at it. Now, what I like about this pattern is it utilizes the ability to imagine. So you're going to imagine for whatever your individual situation is, a scenario in which you pick somebody to be a mentor or coach, or somebody who's a benevolent person who's really good at what they do, an expert in that particular area. It could be a movie star, it could be mom.
Okay.
It could be just about anybody. First of all, you need something to work on. So Jody, you got something?
Aspiration.
Kate, you got, what's your?
No, I said an aspiration to aspire, somebody to which you aspire, an example.
So is there an ability you'd like to have, Kate?
No, what I was saying in regards to what you were talking about
I got
is
it.
that you aspire to the example of somebody whom you would like to emulate.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying and giving people that. So for everybody else, Jody, you've got something you're working on?
Okay, am I unmuted finally? Okay.
Yep.
Something I'm working on, probably not as hard as I should be, but I would say more fitness, working out type thing.
Okay. So the ability to work out and create fitness.
Wanting to work out. Yes.
Wanting to work out. Okay. And I'm asking people individually because if you don't have something to work with, you don't get the benefit of the exercise. And so we're going to do a little exercise here. So we'll check one more time. Debbie, what's one thing? What's your thing you're working on? You're muted too.
Once again, the cooking, enjoying cooking.
Okay, they enjoying cooking. So you know somebody who would be really good at it.
Yeah, I do.
Now, if we had done the well-formed outcome questions with that one, as Kate got to right away, is you might need to tweak the outcome in a particular place. We're going to take that and run with it. So everybody's got something and they got somebody who would do it really well. So what I'm going to have you do is imagine for a moment that imagine the moment when you are in the moment of, I'm not doing this very well. What's an example of when you didn't do it very well? And when you think of it, you're probably going to think of it automatically as like a movie. It's going to start somewhere. It's going to have a middle and an end. So you can go from the middle all the way through to the end. Notice what happened, who was there with you, what the colors were, what you were saying to yourself, all that stuff. You come to the end of the movie, you're standing on the last frame. Because the brain works that way. If you're not highly visual, you may need to, if you're highly auditory, some people actually do it like a story. They like read it in a book or write a story about it. If that's the way you process, make a story about it. But otherwise, you got your movie and it goes to the end. You're standing on the last frame of that movie. And you notice the state you're in as you're standing on the last frame. And it's kind of like you could just step out of the movie for a minute and see yourself standing on the last frame, can't you? And what we're going to do is you're standing there looking back at the movie with you in it in that state. I'm going to have you recognize that you could talk to your creative part. And the creative part of you is really good at coming up with creative solutions to things. And what it's going to give you this time is an ability to put not just yourself in the movie, but you're going to go and be able to look over the shoulder. You could be right up, just a little up and behind one side or the other, looking at the person who's really good at being able to do that. And your movie, you're going to take that resource, go back into the movie and reverse it. So you're standing on the last frame now. You reverse your movie really, really fast so that the colors blend together. The voices go backwards. And you're going all the way back to the beginning of the movie. Just before it starts, stop it there. Now, creative part, give that younger you, the you that didn't do it well, the resource of being able to look over the shoulder of the person who does do it well, put them in the movie instead of you. And you're just the observer. You can do that? I know you can do that. So as you do, imagine yourself starting that movie and noticing what the other person does differently so that they get a different outcome than the one you were getting. See what they see, what they hear, what they feel, smell, taste. Notice all of that as you run that movie with them in it from the beginning all the way through the middle to the end until you're standing on the last frame again. You can do that. When you're on the last frame again, step out of the movie again, leaving the you that was in the movie and the person who does it really well over there, and you're back on the side again, and just notice for yourself. What if I ask you now, what did you notice that they do differently? Anybody?
So I can tell you, I'm using exercise, of wanting to exercise.
Okay.
And because I'm not good at wanting to do it.
Right.
Because like Lynette said, it's a lot better to just watch Netflix and be cozy on my couch. But when I see my friend Jen, which is the one that I put in that place, I recognize the reason she does it so well and she can't stand a day without having exercise is because she's using it for her mental health, where I use hypnosis and other like meditation and stuff to hold myself grounded and like feeling centered. But that's what she's using the exercise for.
Okay. And
so I actually kind of need to figure out like
so
a different.
Let me just ask you, does it occur to you that since you know that there's something in common between those things, since you're getting the benefit of that, can you apply it to this situation? Because you would get it from hypnosis and doing the other things you do. And the way it feels is a certain way. Really, all you need is to notice that you could feel that way about it. And we're going to give you a chance to install it into the pattern.
Yeah.
Okay, I noticed you're nodding, so I'm taking that as a yes.
So you're saying that I can recognize that I will also benefit mentally from the exercise, or that
at this point, it's just the state of wanting. Because when you heal yourself on a regular basis with hypnosis and other things, you actually feel a healed and complete kind of way, which is kind of like wanting.
Yeah.
And there are other things that you want for sure. I mean, we could do the Godiva chocolate pattern.
I would like Godiva chocolate, that's for sure. I want some of that.
What the Godiva process is you imagine you've got the camera lens, and it opens up. When it opens up fully, you fully see the Godiva chocolate on the other side. When you close it down, it's the limitation. And then the Godiva chocolate opens up, and you want that, and it closes down again. You want it, and pretty soon you notice that you can have it because it's going to stay open a lot longer. And notice that feeling and apply that to the situation. So any other thoughts or questions? Everybody's got it with us so far? We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to run the movie from the end backwards really fast, so the colors all run together and the voices go together backwards, and you run it all the way back through the middle, all the way to the end, noticing all the things, and pretty soon you're right before the movie started again. But this time, you're going to be you inside the other person. So just looking over their shoulder, you're going to be you inside them, being able to see what they see from inside, hear what they hear, and say to themselves from inside, and feel the way they feel in their neurological system from the inside. And as you do, run that movie all the way back, create a part, give that younger you the resource of being inside the other person, start the movie over again, this time running it from the beginning, inside the other person, noticing what it feels like, looks like, sounds like to be them doing the thing that they do differently than what you did. A little confusing, Kate? Okay. You can imagine being inside the other person?
Yes, I can imagine being inside the other person, but I don't want to.
You don't want to be. Okay. You have that choice. You could pick another.
Because I respect their process, and I help lead them through their process.
Who would be somebody that you could pick to work with that you respect their process and they would be willing to respect yours in such a way that they'd actually want you to learn this way?
Well,
They'd invite you to learn this way. So just pick somebody else.
Well, I mean, all the people that I work with, I mean, I come from this place of respect.
Right. And you
in
need
which
permission.
Sorry?
Do you need permission? Is that what's missing, is the permission to be them, be inside them?
I don't want to be inside them
Okay,
because
well, you
I'm
can
not
keep-
them. They're they. And so I seek to help them figure out their own processes.
Okay, so maybe you want to just kind of observe from another position and imagine you just you skip this piece of it and then do the last one, because we're going to put you back in,
Okay.
because I think you'll get there anyway. Everybody else is ready to go? So you run the movie from being them all the way through to the end. You step out. What happened differently for you, not just seeing what they do, actually being inside what they do? Because what we're doing is having you alter, add to, enhance your own neurological connections by imagining being in there, basically being them. What happened? What'd you learn differently this time? When you got to the end, what do you learn differently? Standing on the last frame, step out, looking back. This time you did it.
Compassion. I mean, if anything, compassion for their process.
Okay,
and where they're at.
Perfect. Debbie?
Just the enjoyment of pulling food out of the refrigerator and cupboards and,
Creating something
and knowing that she's going to be feeding her family. So,
all right, excellent. And I noticed a smile on your face and the joy that's bringing you. Anything else? Angie, you got something? What happened differently this time? What'd you learn differently?
Yeah, definitely. The person I was seeing is more calm and relaxed. So I
Okay.
could really feel the state of that being.
And what happens differently because they're calm and relaxed and you've experienced it like them? What happens in the situation? Does it come out, does it occur differently?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a confidence, there's a self-assurance in it.
Okay. And if
Okay.
you had that already to begin with, things would have probably happened differently to begin with. So here we are at the end of that movie. You analyze that. What we're going to do is do the same thing one more time. So you're in the movie. You're at the end of the movie, standing on the last frame. You run it backwards really fast. The colors run together. The voices go backwards. You're all the way to the beginning of the movie. This time, we're going to give, creative part is going to give you a last resource. Instead of doing it through them, the other person, the mentor, you're going to be you, because you've actually already learned stuff in your neurological process that's different than the way you were doing it before. So as you be you, you may do it slightly differently than they did with your own personality and your own connections. Start the movie over again, this time as you, having already learned what you learned from doing the early parts of the exercise, seeing them do it and then being in them doing it. And then the last time it's you get to choose as you run the movie from the beginning all the way through to the middle. See what you see, hear what you hear, feeling now what you feel now as you're in this movie all the way through to the end, standing on the last frame again. And your brain works quicker than you think. So as you do come all the way to the end of the movie, standing on that last frame, step out and just share with us what happened differently this time, because it's different every time you do it, because we've done it from a different point of view. Skip, you got an idea? Were you able to follow all that?
Yeah, I was able to follow all that. And it's a technique that I use a lot with clients, where I have them standing on a stage of a movie theater and walking through a door and seeing the scene that they don't like in their mind, if it's a fear or whatever it happens to be, and then noticing it, hearing it, what's going on, walking out the the side door of the thing. It's very much what you're absolutely, and then you
Yeah.
have them go back in reverse very, very quickly.
Which is a
And then
scramble
the-
technique.
Or
Yeah,
making it in
then
full
the
living
back
color
is-
and then black and white.
And
Yeah.
then they do it again, but this
Right.
time the people in there say it's a father who was a sexual abuser of
Right.
this person. Now he's a cartoon character and there's all kinds of funny music playing and, you know, you go through it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, we use that metaphor in the phobia cure, so it's really useful for a lot of things, and it's similar to what we're doing here.
Mhm.
So who ran it the last time and noticed that it's a little bit different this time? What'd you learn this time? Debbie?
It's like I was enjoying it, actually.
Enjoying it, actually. Excellent.
Yeah, I was
Yay.
pleased to have the meal ready and I actually got it done on time too, which is amazing for me.
Wonderful. And I got it done on time. That's great. Who else? Odette, we haven't
I
heard
just
from
say
you.
woof Debbie, cool.
Yeah,
There's that the sense of excitement,
yeah,
that accomplishment that
Yeah.
you're feeling. That's woof.
That is true. Yes, I am feeling that.
We're so excited to come and try the meal out.
Yeah, let's all go to Debbie's for dinner.
So to answer your question, Bill, so for me, it's like the skills that the subject matter expert used.
Yeah.
I'm totally capable of using the same
And you're
skills.
and you're totally capable. And if you realize that it's just a feeling anyway, you
Yeah,
can have that feeling now, later, or anytime in the future. So
Yeah.
you have that ability.
I have
Excellent.
the feeling and the intellectual capacity to do it. So
Okay, Lynette? You're still muted.
You're muted, Lynette.
There, how's that?
There you go.
That's better.
Good girl.
Anyway, I saw that they didn't have any flexibility, that they were so disciplined that they were rigid.
Okay, so I'm glad we did it the last time because you got to do it the way you would do it.
Exactly. And so I really saw the flexibility of things I know really work for me, like doing Qigong in the morning, like that moving meditation. And it gets your energy going in ways, very energetically. It's very spiritual and it's very motivating. And so, but still with the flexibility of from there moving into other things, but starting with something like that, which is, that
Excellent. I'm doing my Qigong post posture. Excellent. How about you, Jody?
Well, I just know a couple of things I noticed when I first thought about stepping into her, the person that I was admiring as always wanting to work out. Just that she has so much anxiety and that this is how she works it out. And this is why it's so important for
Okay.
her to do it.
Yeah.
But after recognizing, like making that I want to, if I want to do it like she does, like just how proud I am at the end of like after doing the workouts and being consistent with it, that like, I want to feel that pride. I want to be that proud of myself.
Excellent. So you found another motivation at the end of the process. Wonderful. Colleen, were you able to follow all that? You're muted. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I do use a version of what you're talking about, so
Okay.
I get what you're saying.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So we got enough feedback here and we're about 8:40 or 7:45, I think. So let's kind of, unless there's something else you want to add or contribute, let's open it up. If you got questions or thoughts, let's open it up for that, and we'll turn it back over again whenever you're ready, Odette. And
So on item number 9, the future pace, do you want to just say anything about that? I mean,
yeah, future pacing is really important. in a way, what you do with this process, I didn't do it exactly the way it is on the page, but if you follow that page, it'll get you where you want to go. Future pacing is really important because we have what we can vividly imagine as if it had been the actual experience. You know that really well based on what you do. So future pacing, we get people into the future. We also, when I teach this, we call it the cure for buyer's remorse. Because if I got somebody out into a future where they're already fully enjoying the product I sold to them or persuaded them to get or influenced them in whatever way we did, they've experienced it for themselves as fully complete. So they've bypassed any objection they might have had to already having it or creating buyer's remorse out of it. Because sometimes people don't enjoy what they've got because they come up with reasons, maybe whatever reason they had for not fully getting it. So it bypasses all that. They can just live in the completion of the process. So
I love that.
Did that answer kind of what you were thinking, or you got another idea there?
No, I was just curious to hear, what you would say on it.
What else I was going to say is that in a way, what we've done by putting you in at the end, we've already created, we actually future pace it just by the words that, and because you've done that, because it's now shifted the neurological connections in your brain and nervous system, Debbie, then you're going to notice that you're just going to actually, instead of having the old thoughts and feelings about it, about cooking, you'll just notice that you actually get a little more excited about it, won't you?
Yeah, I think so. It'll be fun to, give it a go.
Because
So,
you already know how to feel about it when you do. Excellent.
so would the future pacing be done in the form of a movie where Debbie steps into a future timeline where she's cooked this wonderful meal for her friends and family and she's in it, living it, and so forth?
Yeah, I might not create it as a full movie. I might just talk it really quick, kind of like
Okay.
what I did with her, and just make it more like a movie. That's not a bad idea, what your idea.
Yeah, but Debbie is a wonderful cook.
Yeah, I get the feedback.
She really, you really are, Debbie. I mean, you are delightful and everybody enjoys everything you do. So, duh.
Well, I had to be a good cook, but that didn't mean.
Oh, you had to be. Well, no, you were, because you really enjoy paying attention.
Yeah, and
You pay
everybody's had this.
attention to your ingredients. You pay attention to different things that people enjoy. That's what you are. You do pay attention, and I think that the anxiety that you sometimes experience has to do with, oh, I hope that I have everything that everybody wants, more than the meal itself.
That is true, yeah. So
I think everybody's experienced one of those meals where they know it was cooked with love.
well.
And
That's what it
Debbie
needs
definitely
to
cooks
be.
with
I
love.
will have to put that in my
Ingredient list.
my movie.
Yeah, well, Debbie cooks with love and cooks with angst.
Bill, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you do somatic testing of your clients during your process? And I mean, as a standalone calibration of whether the change has taken place and just how effective it is?
Yeah,
Do you
and
follow what I mean?
some of it's subtle, and it's kind of what I was doing with you as a group early on, was when you got to the kind of the things I was pointing out about the way the eyes went and the smile on the face and all of that. Those are a kind of somatic testing, I would assume, would be a way of thinking.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm really leaning toward is, I think, as a lot of people think, that every emotion has a corresponding sensation in our bodies.
Yes.
And so if a client comes to me, for instance, I had an 11-year-old girl today, right? One of my clients today. And she came to me, her grandmother brought her to me because she had a fear of riding in cars now. On September the 11th, she was with her grandmother and was involved in a motor vehicle accident. An old guy lost control and ran into their car. She blacked out, according to her grandmother, for a few seconds. And then she came to, and now she has been afraid of riding in vehicles. And so I tested her at the beginning of the session, or near the beginning of the session, after I got done explaining an 11-year-old's version of what I'm going to do and how the mind works. Where in your body do you feel this? And she didn't have an awareness, as most people don't, when they have these emotions of whatever their problem is.
Yeah,
They're
kind of
trapped emotions in the body. And I had her close her eyes and imagine getting into a car. And she started to feel this fear. I said, where do you feel? She said, it feels like shaking in my chest, which is perfect. So then when I did my work with her, and I did going through a rainbow on a magic carpet, going to the other side and meeting a girl that looked just like her, and her giving her the suggestions of how she overcame that problem, blah, 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 brought her back. And then I tested it. Yes. So I want you to go again. I want you to think about going into the car, her eyes are closed, block out the external stimulus. And she couldn't find the shaking in her chest anymore, which to me is the proof that we've removed the trauma.
Yeah.
Because the body keeps the score, right? The body holds on to the emotion. And once you change the emotion, that physical symptom goes with it. They're inextricably connected. So my question to you is, in the NLP process, do you do that as an intentional function of NLP? Do you test for that? I mean, I've seen people where they talk about.
The way I think about it is that I'm constantly checking the work. Because we're in the biofeedback loop and I'm able to pay attention to the subtle physiological cues, and I've done the well-formed outcome questions, so I know when I'm at that state, then I'm testing it at every step along the way to make sure that I've actually gotten to where I think I've gotten with the person.
So you're testing for a physiological response or the absence of it.
Yeah, and the only caveat there from the example you used is you want to be a little careful around traumatic events, because you don't want to anchor by the testing. You don't want to bring up something that anchors in the problem state and creates a deeper phobia. Yeah. Better to create a bailout anchor so that you could fire the good positive bailout anchor anytime, anywhere. In case you get them into a situation, you can fire the other anchor and boom, it pulls them right out of it.
Can you give me an example of a bailout anchor?
Then you can do the little techniques to move it off farther, see it on a movie or whatever.
Would you be able to exemplify that bailout anchor in the situation I told you about, the 11-year-old girl who's in the accident?
Well, I might 11-year-old girl, I might have gone to school, because that would be something I would think of. Who's your best friend? You remember like the best time you ever had together? And I want to anchor that state so that regardless, doesn't have to be related to the traumatic event in any way, shape, or form. Just create such a good positive bailout anchor that and the only thing about that is making sure that you pick something that if it gets less intense, it doesn't impact like the relationship, doesn't lessen the relationship she has with her best friend. So I might make sure that that's a good bailout anchor to use. But then I've fired that, I've got it ready to work and fire off anytime we need it.
But you're going to go back to the trauma again at some point.
We're going to go back to the trauma again and make sure that we get to the state we need to go. I may never have to use that bailout anchor.
Sure. So that's a relief valve.
Yeah, potential phobia, then I've got it, I can fire it anytime. So I'd say the answer is yes, and that I'm always in the process of checking the work I'm doing. And a lot of it is not, I don't usually have to speak it or create a picture of it. I'm just paying attention to the subtle cues that are going on as we go from point.
And in NLP, would that typically be a one session kind of process?
Phobias usually are. Driving phobias and airplane phobias sometimes take longer.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you connect? I mean, I know you're trying to kind of break a connection, but at the same time, it's like, how do you go like with the movie?
Okay.
And
Break
do
state.
the disconnect for her or the out that she has. And
Okay, so I created the bailout anchor and I break state from that. So then we talk about something else before I begin to suggest that she go into the picture of the negative event. Did that answer the question?
I don't know, I might have to have to see that one to.
Was that what you were thinking of? Because we've created a bailout anchor and
Well, I'm trying to think, okay, you go through the movie, and go through it backwards, but where does the bailout anchor come into play?
okay. We use the bailout anchor when we think there's a trauma or a potential phobia might be there, because we don't want to anchor the negative state.
And at the point of abreaction, right?
Other kinds of problems that people have, we can just sort of start right in. So we may not have to do a bailout anchor for most things, but for traumas, definitely set the bailout anchor right in the beginning.
Debbie, are you asking when would you use the bailout anchor in the process?
Yeah, and I don't quite understand.
At the point of abreaction, right, Bill? So they start to freak out or start to cry, or
they might be able to say why they came today without going into the negative, going full blown into the phobic response, which would be an abreaction. So it would be right away, as soon as possible. You set the bailout anchor if you've got a trauma. You don't go forward until it is set and tested. So I set the anchor, remember that moment, break state. So when you think about your friend, boom, the words your friend are the anchor to have her re-experience the good state. So I know she can get to it again. Then I break state again, and then I go into the cure of the thing we're working on.
You might need to see that one.
Okay, yeah.
Totally understand it.
Okay. Well, it's interesting about phobias because they're examples of single event learning. Something happened and was so strong that it created a reaction beyond conscious thought that's immediate. And with NLP, what they did is they came up with the phobia cure by, instead of trying to work people through the process, they went and found people who used to have phobias and don't anymore. And we studied those people. So there seemed to be some things in common. One of the things I noticed is in the process of people who used to have a phobia and they don't anymore, and you could test that immediately because you ask about it and they don't have the reaction, then you know that there was a point at which, in getting the cure to their own phobia, they imagined themselves outside of themselves looking back at the problem state. And they went inside, in that moment, they went, well, that's just ridiculous. Why'd she do that? I mean, that's just not the right way to handle things. So they made a decision about the state like it's silly. And then they went back into themselves with that part, and it no longer had that reaction to it. So they put together a process, and the movie theater is the metaphor that's most often used with phobias. So you watched a movie in a movie theater.
Right. Okay.
So I'm assuming you've had that done or seen some example of it already. So you're beginning to get it?
I think so.
Okay. Other questions or thoughts?
So it's
Think we'll-
8 o'clock. Any final questions for Bill?
No, but thank you. This has been interesting.
Oh, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to have this printout to keep.
Excellent. On the printout, there is a next seminar coming up. So we'll be doing that on Zoom, and it's in October. So it'll be at the meta programs. Language and behavior patterns that people have. We all assume everybody operates like us, but they don't. And this is probably the best way to get language patterns, to learn basic language patterns in NLP, is by doing the meta program seminar.
And what are a few of the key ways we would apply language pattern either in day-to-day life or with our clients? What's a few
Well, one
ways
thing
that-
about meta programs in particular, we just did a language pattern seminar that's already passed. But with it's called the Language of Influence. It's a one-day online workshop, October 23rd. So it'll be 9 o'clock to 4 p.m. So specific, we actually can learn to ask the right question that will elicit the specific pattern. People are either moving towards things in their life or they're moving away from things in life. So which motivation do you want to use in hypnosis with somebody? Depends on which kind of person they are. So if they're more moving towards thing, you language everything towards the goal. If they're moving away from things, you language everything so that they don't have a problem. So that they can avoid something. Products are moved toward or move away from. Disney is kind of a move towards product. Insurance is a move away from product. And we have myriad patterns that once you recognize them, you can get them easily. And obviously it's like one template on top of another. And we'll get through several different NLP meta program patterns that you'll be able to utilize in your language and behavior in your coaching hypnosis work with people, because it'll make it way more effective.
That's cool. There's so many patterns sometimes I don't notice.
Yeah. Basically, people no longer have to work at it really hard to understand what you just said, because you've used their pattern of thinking, which is your own neural coding. If I can match your own neural coding, which is language, the pattern for getting in and shifting and changing things, if I use your pattern, then you don't have to work at it, it just goes right in. So it kind of goes that way. So we'll be doing that towards the end of October. Other questions or thoughts? Thanks for inviting me.
Bill, so thanks so much for doing this. I mean, you're generous with your time and your knowledge, and it's awesome for us to see your perspective of how you work and resolve issues that we work with clients on a daily basis. So thanks so much for doing that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
I believe this is valuable stuff, and I'm really happy to get people in the world actually doing more of this.
Well, your expertise is obvious, that's for sure.
Thank you. Colleen?
Thanks everyone for allowing me to attend. It was great to experience this.
Great to have you, Rob.
Hey, Bill, when are they going to be done building the Paradise Valley area there?
Good question.
You're around the corner from me. So I see they're building something. They're working on it, aren't they?
Well, they're tearing